You're listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with registered patent attorney, Dr. Adam Diamond, founder of Diamond Patent Law, the #1 source for securing your intellectual property needs. Now, here's your host, Adam Diamond.
Hello and welcome to the Patenting for Inventors podcast, episode 91, What to Do If You Miss a Deadline. My name is Adam Diamond, a registered patent attorney and founder and owner of Diamond Patent Law in Los Angeles, California. I can be contacted through my website at diamondpatentlaw.com. That's DIAMENT, patentlaw.com, or call me at 424-281-0162. I've heard that the most common reason patent attorneys get sued for malpractice is missing a deadline. Missing a deadline can be critical or sometimes not so critical. And although I've probably talked about various deadlines and what to do if you miss them in the past, I thought I would put in a single episode the main deadlines that you might miss and how to handle them if you could handle them at all. I can't cover every single type of deadline you might have, so these are just some of the main ones. If I'm talking about some part of the patent application process, but don't go into detail about what that means, it's probably because I've covered it in an episode before. So I'm going to run through a bunch of these real fast, and there are some exceptions to these deadlines, but I can't go over every single exception, and I'll just cover the general rule, the deadline, and what maybe you can do if you miss it. The first deadline to be aware of is the 1-year U.S. deadline to file some type of application. If you've disclosed your invention publicly, such as by a sale or using it or discussing it with others where you didn't have a non-disclosure agreement, you only have 1 year to file an application. It can be a provisional, a non-provisional, or a PCT application. If you miss that deadline, there's not much you can do. Now, the examiner isn't necessarily going to know you missed that deadline. So you still might get a patent, but if it's ever challenged in litigation, your patent can be found invalid. And this 1-year deadline applies in the U.S., but not every country has that grace period. So if you're filing in other countries, make sure you know that their deadline rules. If you miss the deadline, there's not much you can do. There's no fee you can pay. All you could really do is argue that your disclosure didn't trigger that 1-year deadline rule. The next deadline is the provisional to non-provisional patent application deadline. This is also a 12-month rule. You have 12 months to file a non-provisional or a PCT application if you're filing a PCT application. If that 12-month date falls on a national holiday or weekend, you do have until the next business day to file. Now, what to do if you miss this deadline? Technically, you do have 2 months to file a petition, which costs money and it's called restoring the right of priority. But the reason that you missed it has to be unintentional. If you told your patent attorney not to file one, and then within 2 months you changed your mind, that's not a reason where you're allowed to use that 2-month extension. I believe the petition costs between $500 and $2,000 now, depending on your entity size. Technically, I also believe that the 2-month extension can apply to a PCT application, but not all countries follow that. So maybe in the US, you can file a PCT application 2 months after the 12-month normal deadline, and you can still get a US patent that stems from it. But other countries might say no. So you don't want to mess with that deadline. If you miss the 2-month deadline, all hope isn't necessarily lost, but it might be. You can always just file a brand new application that doesn't claim priority to your provisional. But maybe you can't do that now because maybe you disclosed your invention and it's in the public. And if you disclose that invention, it could be used against you when you file a brand new application. And then you're not able to claim priority to it. The next deadline to be aware of are rejection deadlines. Almost always you're going to get a 3-month deadline to respond when you first get a rejection. And most of the time you can get another 3 months. You can also file on the next business day if the deadline falls on a holiday or weekend. For each month that you're late, you have to pay a higher fee. So if you file between the 3rd and 4th month, you pay 1 fee. Between the 4th and 5th month, it's a higher fee. And between the 5th and 6th months, it's an even higher fee. Once that 6th month passes, your application is considered abandoned. But if it's before the 6-month deadline, and just between that 3 and 6 months, when you file your response, you do that simultaneously with a request for an extension, and you pay a fee. It's generally not a big deal. What you can do is, what can you do if you miss the 6-month deadline? Then what you have to do is revive your patent application. There used to be different kinds of rules on whether your abandonment was unintentional or unavoidable. There are different standards depending on when you want to revive. Now all you have to do is state that it was unintentional abandonment. It's still best to file something as quickly as possible if you realize you missed the application. You have to file a petition with your response to revive an unintentionally abandoned patent application. and it's going to cost an extra $500 to $2,000 depending on your entity size above what you would already have to pay. The next is the issue fee deadline. You have 3 months to pay the issue fee of your patent, and there's no extension of this date. If you miss it, you can't just claim that you unintentionally missed it. And this is really bad. You went through all the time and money to get a patent, you get it allowed, and then you don't get a patent because you missed the 3-month deadline. So don't miss that deadline because there's really nothing you can do about it. If you miss it, maybe you have one saving grace I can think of, and that's if while this patent is pending, that you filed other patent applications that claim priority to it. And you could essentially draft a whole new patent application that's a duplicate of the one that you missed with the deadline. So you can get it re-examined, and it would be given the effective filing date of your earliest filed patent application. But if you don't have some other patent application or of the family member on file, then you can't do that. And that leads me to the deadline for filing continuing applications. You can only file continuing applications on a pending application. So if you want to file applications related to the application that's just about to issue, make sure you file either a continuation in part, or a divisional application before your patent issues. Now, even though the rule seems to say that you'd have to file your continuation application before your patent issues, the Federal Circuit said that if you file it on the same day that your patent issues, that's okay too. But I wouldn't want to mess with waiting until the last minute. And that's why it's always a good idea, a good practice point, is that when you submit your issue fee on that same day, also file any continuing application. So just so you don't miss that deadline. If you miss the deadline, then maybe, and it's a big maybe, you can try to get a reissue application by saying your issued patent should have been broader. But this is really challenging to do, and go back to listen to my episode about reissue patent applications. So your patent issues, what kind of deadlines do you have now? You have maintenance fee deadlines. Maintenance fees are 3.5 years, 7.5 years, and 11 years after the patent issues. And you can pay these fees up to 6 months before the due date. So between 3 and 3.5 years, that's when you can pay the first fee. Between 7 and 7.5 years is the second fee. And between 10.5 and 11 years, that's the third fee. If you miss that deadline, you have another 6 months to pay the maintenance fee with an extra fee you have to pay, which is currently between $40 and $160, depending on your entity size. So it's not that much in the grand scheme of what patents cost. Now, if you miss that deadline, if it goes beyond that 6-month extension period, you can revive it. Your patent's considered abandoned, but you can revive it with a petition to revive an abandoned patent, and that will be between $500 and $2,000, depending on the size of your company. But it has to be an unintentional abandonment. There are all kinds of other deadlines. I didn't discuss PCT deadlines and what to do if you miss those, or certain rules about if you file your non-provisional on time within the 12-month period, but you forgot to mention in your application that you're claiming priority to it and how to fix that. But if you miss the deadlines, I highly recommend not trying to fix it yourself. Go through a patent attorney, because if you don't do something right, you could be making it worse for yourself. And if you want help with your patent application, trademarks, copyrights, responding to rejections, appeals, anything else related to your invention, you can contact me directly through my website at diamondpatentlaw.com. That's DIAMENT, patentlaw.com. Email me at adam@diamondpatentlaw.com or call me at 424-281-0162. I'm Adam Diamond, and until next time, keep on inventing.
Thanks for listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with host Adam Diamond. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review on iTunes. The contents of this podcast are intended for general informational purposes only. The facts of every legal matter are unique, and the content of this podcast should not be construed as offering legal advice for your specific legal situation. For more information and help with your own intellectual property needs, contact Adam Diamond at patentingforinventors.com. That's patentingforinventors.com. Or call Diamond Patent Law at 424-281-0162. The preceding information may be considered an attorney advertisement and does not establish any attorney-client relationship.